Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, I've taken a vow on this channel to keep it PG friendly as much as possible. I try really hard not to cuss or be too crass, and I'm gonna keep doing that, including in this video, but videos like this, I have to admit, are a challenge. It's really hard for me to not use, let's just say, animated words, because moments like these, people like this, frankly, frickin' piss me off. There is nothing worse to me than a coward, and even worse than a coward is a coward and a snake. If you thought that this GOP primary process was going to be frustrating, well, that doesn't even begin to cover it. You know, it's one thing to join the GOP primary to think that you have what it takes to be president, even though you're frickin' Christie. I literally don't understand why this guy even shows his face anymore. It's one thing to join in and, of course, get in the political arena, going after your political opponents. That's what you're supposed to do. I get going after Donald Trump. It's one thing to antagonize Donald Trump. It's another to backstab him, the GOP voters, and to push garbage, left-wing, corrupt Democrat propaganda to feed into the corrupt system, especially based on what we're seeing right now, to play that uniparty scumbag role. There is absolutely nothing worse than that. And Christie right now is giving a freaking master class on how to be a snake and a coward, how to be a uniparty scumbag 101, and I have to admit it's just slightly frustrating. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. Let's take a look at what Christie has to say. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, you know, my number one criticism, my number one issue with most of the people, including Ron DeSantis, most people who are currently going against Donald Trump, my number one point of frustration is seeing these two-faced politicians refuse to unilaterally condemn the political weaponization of federal agencies. But it's one thing to take the Ron DeSantis approach and not want to play into your opponent's strength. Of course, I mean, you don't want to make Donald Trump a martyr if you're trying to beat him. So Ron DeSantis has pretty much refused to touch on the issue or to promote the David versus Goliath narrative. It's one thing if you address the issue in a more generic sense, talking about corruption at the FBI and CIA without actually naming Donald Trump and focusing on other elements and angles like the Loudoun County School Board issue. It's another if you literally join in with the Democrats, with the corrupt establishment and uniparty establishment, and promote their garbage, frankly, POS narrative. Just take a look at this.
Well, look, I don't know, Brian, exactly what they're going to find and what's going to come in any indictment that may come. But I will say this. The problem with all this is that it's self-inflicted. In the end, I don't know that the government even knew that Joe Biden had those documents or not. Right. But they did know Donald Trump did. And in fact, asked for them voluntarily for over a year and a quarter, right. And got them back in dribs and drabs. And at least if you believe the accounts that you're reading right now, and I take them with a grain of salt because I did this work for 7 years, and I know you can't believe anything until an indictment comes out. If in fact you're keeping those things knowingly, even after the government has asked for you to bring them back, the excuses about, oh, they were classified, declassified automatically when I left the office, well, that's just wrong. I mean, I know that as a legal matter. And the problem with this is, let's go to pull it back for a second. It's a bigger problem whether he's indicted or not, because these are all self-inflicted wounds. Return the documents and stop doing this. Why do you have to be the center of negative attention all the time? Why do you have to be angry all the time? And that's what Donald Trump has done. So I'll wait to see and make a judgment on the indictment if and when one comes. But certainly, as you know, on the Alvin Bragg stuff, I said at the time, that's a ridiculous indictment and one that I would have never brought as a prosecutor. But it doesn't mean that the next one and the next one are not going to be problematic. And by the way, that's weight that Donald Trump will have to carry if he's the nominee into a general election in November. And why do we want to take that risk?
Christie essentially went on Fox News and defended the weaponization of the Justice Department against Donald Trump. That's exactly what he did. He's essentially calling for the partisan indictment, arrest, and conviction of the leader of the Republican Party. I mean, what a piece of work. And it's especially more frustrating if you understand the context. The reason why Donald Trump might want to keep classified documents that he literally declassified. Let's not forget this right over here, a presidential memorandum dated in January January 2021, right before Trump left office, where he declassified documents related to Crossfire Hurricane, the FBI's corrupt investigation into his then campaign and presidency, where they used a British and Russian spy to fabricate evidence, leaked all this garbage information to the media, then used the phony Steele dossier to get an illegal FISA warrant, and then illegally spy on his campaign and presidential office. Trump obviously has some sort of interest in holding these documents. We don't know what it is. Doesn't really matter. Trump obviously has some sort of interest in holding these documents, probably related to his own defense, and the idea that you would take the government's side is such a pathetic act of cowardice. It's Trump versus the damn machine, and you're on the side of the machine. Absolutely pathetic. To see a man so persecuted, to see the government politicized and mobilized, weaponized to attack, defame, and criminalize your party's leader, your constituents' first choice, I honestly can't think of anything more pathetic. I mean, at this point, he's basically just as bad as Liz Cheney. He might as well call himself a Nancy Pelosi Democrat. And if you think that's bad, well, this is even worse. Here's Christie showing up on CNN in 2023 after all the information that we have related to all the hoaxes and investigations targeting Donald Trump. Here he is, just the other day, claiming that Donald Trump is a Putin puppet.
And I don't know what President Trump is thinking about this, except that he's been a puppet of Putin from the time he was president. And it always was disturbing to me. We would argue regularly about Vladimir Putin during the time that he was president. And I think it's very clear what we need to do. We need to give the Ukrainians every piece of military hardware they need to protect themselves against this aggression.
He's always been a puppet of Putin since the time he was president. I've never seen anything so pathetic. And what's really puzzling to me, I'm failing to see exactly what this guy's doing. I mean, someone has to have him up to this. Or is this guy real? Is this a real presidential run? Does Christie think that this is the message that's gonna work? I mean, does Christie think that he's the image of a president? What motivates this guy to run for president every single season? He's never gonna get more than maybe 1 or 2% of the vote. He's clearly unelectable, yet he shows up saying this ridiculous, outlandish, pathetic, cowardly nonsense. There's only one explanation. He's a tool of the deep state. Somebody has him up to this. The same sort of people probably behind Liz Cheney. His job is to show up and try to take Donald Trump down. I highly doubt he's going to go after Ron DeSantis in the same manner. And of course, it's the same long-term problem with the Republican Party. So many different interest groups and different candidates with ulterior motives going after each other like freaking crabs in a bucket. Instead of rallying behind the clear de facto leader, you have these snakes injecting this Democrat venom into the process, making it extra difficult to find unity within the party, to hone in and focus on what's actually important. I mean, you know what's probably a top priority when it comes to Republican voters? Going after this deep corruption in Washington, and especially the deep corruption at the top levels of the CIA and the FBI. But instead, you have guys like this doing those corrupt entities' bidding. It's absolutely unbelievable. Frankly, it's enough to make me sick to my stomach. Anyways, don't really need to go in circles. You guys get it. I'm sure you're just as revolted by these Christie talking points as I am. Instead of offering a forward image, he's running as a Republican candidate, pushing Democrat corruption propaganda. It's absolutely absurd. That's what I got for you, though. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. You know, we'd love to have you here. Thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you on the next one.